What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Friday. Oh, Saturday, I mean. Damn. We got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the difference between what some call radio prepping and some call emergency communications. Like a Venn diagram, there are some overlaps that we'll be talking about, and I've got some experts in the room to discuss it with me. Enjoy the memes as we kick this off, and thanks again for spending some time with us. And what is up, everybody? Thanks again for coming on out to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Again, we got a good show for you, but just wanted to say thank you. The Ham Radio Crash Course, what we're doing out here is try to provide more information to people starting out and people approaching new aspects of the hobby. And we do so in what we call an inclusive way, which means we're welcoming to everybody. We try to answer as many questions as we can, and I see a lot of questions already in the chat right here, and a lot of people coming out, so thanks for doing that. We really appreciate it. We'll be looking at the chat room, but it starts getting a little fast and furious, so if you have questions that you're not getting the answer for as we go forward, please consider joining us on Discord. Discord is our server that we do the after chat on. It's a fun discussion platform. It's text and voice. We get a lot of people in there, and we try to answer as many questions as we can. So thanks for doing that. Right on. Okay, so a couple things to hit right off the top. Ham Radio Crash Course website is the place to go for all of our links for all the stuff we got going on, including the Ham Nation schedule. I have been told as well that we have some links in here that I want to show. Where are the links? Is it under? I don't think it's the sponsors. Leia did not give me the... She said it's under shop. Okay, I think it is discounts and affiliates. That's it. I figured it out. I know how my website works. But Leia does run this, and we appreciate the updates that she does there. Want a big shout out to Ethan with the PNW spot, the preferred hotspot for the Ham Radio Crash Course. So if you're interested in that, go to hamradiocrashcourse.com and click on the link there. And he's one of the admins, so we like supporting him in what he's doing out there. So thanks again, Ethan, for that. Right on. Also, hamtactical.com for the merch that we put out for the Ham Radio Crash Course. We've got some new merch up for Ham Radio Adventures, and that is the club that is affiliated with the Ham Radio Crash Course. That is WE4DX, We4DX, get it? Haha. And they've got a flag that Leia put together, which is super cool, and the link is in the description to Ham Radio Adventures, which you can find out more about the club if you're interested. And as things get through, COVID and all that, we're going to start going out and having some fun with everybody. So make sure you check that out as well. Last little bit of news, QRZ.com recently updated with a bunch of new awards that you can unlock, like Master of Asia, I think there's Master of South America, a bunch of other ones, and you can check that out when you log into your QRZ. And you go to the awards tab for your call sign logbook. You can see if you have access to those new awards. Okay? Okay. Well, what I wanted to do is we've got a lot of questions and comments on emergency comms and also radio prepping and kind of what the differences are there. So I thought I would bring some people on who know a bit about that. So without further ado, let's flip it on over. We've got Evan, W8KJR, and Dom. Both are individuals that you may be familiar with. They are admins on the Ham Radio Crash Course. They do a great job for the Facebook group and the Discord group, Discord server. So thanks again, you guys, for coming out. How is it going?
Going really good, Josh. Been a pretty solid week. It's starting to warm up here in Ohio, and I got to do a POTA last week, and that makes me happy. Anytime I get to go out and play radio, I'm happy. So
you were successful with your POTA activation?
I fell a little bit short of the 10 that I needed, but any day playing radio is better than a day sitting inside. So
this is true, and I'm just resizing the chat so we can get all the cool chats coming in. Dom, how you doing?
Pretty good too. Yeah, like Evan said, it's warming up here, so I got to go outside at least a little bit. Didn't get to play radio, but I did get to fly my drone a little bit, so that was fun.
And you have a DJI Mavic Mini?
Mavic Air.
Mavic Air,
Mavic
okay.
Air 2, sorry.
Right on, right on. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to open the beer of the night. I'm drinking a Modern Times Critical Band, and the critical band for tonight would be 40 meters. After the show, or towards the end of the show, I'm going to show some slow scan television pictures. You guys mentioned that you like doing that, so I'm going to show you the slow scan television pictures that I picked up just today on 20 meters. But I do have it running in the background, so if you want to throw out some SSTVs, I'll probably be able to pick it up. So, very good. So I thought what we would do is we got some slides that we kind of all workshopped together just to kind of lay the foundation of this talk, and then we've got a couple of points that we want to hit as far as questions and all that other good stuff. So I'm going to throw it right over to the slides. Radio prepping versus emergency communication is kind of what we're talking about here. So let me go ahead and flip it on over. Similar gear, but different goals. And, you know, you guys hop in at any time. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would say that for the most part, you're going to have a lot of the same radios for, you know, preparing for your own, to make your own way for communication versus offering those services to, you know, another agency. You're typically going to have the same stuff in your toolkit, just a different agenda.
Mm-hmm. And we should probably do that right now. Why don't you guys go ahead and give a little background on what you do in the emergency communication space, so that going forward people will understand and can ask appropriate questions if they have them.
For sure. So I've been involved with the Amateur Radio Emergency Service in a couple different capacities for about the last 8 years. Actually, total, I've been involved for about 15. First as just a member of ARES, volunteering when I could, then to an assistant emergency coordinator, and sometime as an emergency coordinator. Currently back to an assistant and helping train another EC for our county. My work schedule is not always conducive to certain drills and stuff, so I'm doing a lot of hands-on stuff with, you know, figuring out solutions and how to prepare, and less so much coordination at the moment. But I did a lot of that for the last couple of years.
Right on, right on. How about you, Dom?
Yeah, I'm an AEC as well, another system emergency coordinator for the county. My role kind of has just been putting together a net schedule and just kind of, I guess, proofreading and just like helping throw some ideas around for the county. Not a super huge part, but it's fun to at least help out as much as I can with it.
Sure, sure. And we'll get into some of the things that you support as far as events and what's been going on with your involvement, both of you. But let's dive into these slides a little bit, and again, feel free to hop in there. So the goal a lot of times, whether or not you're a radio prepper or an emergency communications person involved with different groups, is to basically reestablish reliable communication to convey pertinent information, and we generally call this passing traffic. Now, the emergency communication aspect of it can be a bit misleading, because that goes beyond just emergencies. It turns into when you're out far off from network communication for your cell phone, you have no way of communicating. What should you depend on? Well, ham radio is one thing that you can depend on, and one thing that I support that people do check out and get involved in. Would you guys agree with that? Is that generally it's a EmComm is kind of a blanket term, but there's a lot of different areas that it is effective just beyond a tried and true emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to make use of that technology for a lot of different purposes. EmComm is obviously stands for emergency communications, but kind of under that same tent, you can put, volunteering services for a charitable event, or assisting with, we call it tactical stuff, but like standing there with your HT, providing support to, staff members of an event or something like that. And even for, using for your own benefit when you're not in connection of your cell phone. So,
yeah. And Dom, do you kind of keep radio equipment around that would be used not just for an emergency situation, but any particular, call it power outage, or you're off grid a bit? Like, do you use that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, especially this past last week or the week before that, when we got those huge round of snowstorms, like wherever I went, that was more than probably 20 miles away. I'd always take an HT with me, which I know it still kind of falls under emergency communications, but just something else to have, more personal. But again, you can use that for anything that's not just emergency communications as well.
Yeah. I think that's one of the misnomers that people have when it comes to emergency communications, is that they think it's got to be like some massive thing. It could be as simple as your own power is out in the house and you're in an area that's kind of far off the grid, right? So what do? Well, you may have to depend on an ulterior or an alternative form of power. But what information are we sending and why? And so that's the crux of this whole discussion tonight, everybody, is and we've had Dom and Evan on the show before. We've talked a lot about the gear and what it is we like to use and all this cool, what I would call the high-speed, low-drag aspect of ham radio is all the cool gear that we geek out on. But people are curious on what it is you do. What is the data, that the traffic that you pass, to go back to the slide before. So that's what they're going to dip into a little bit. So the radio preppers, and really, I want you to kind of think of those two things as maybe different terms, but there is a whole lot of overlap that we're going to talk about. The intended recipients of traffic in the case of like someone that is personally prepared with radios is likely specific people, family members, loved ones, or a self-organizing group. So a group of neighbors, a group of friends, a group of like-minded individuals. That would be what a radio prepper might be interested in communicating with in an emergency situation, or again, an off-grid situation. I could consider overlanding with a group of people in 4x4s to be a reason for radio preparedness, right? I don't look at it any differently than that. So some of the traffic, the data, the information that people might be trying to convey in this type of situation is location information. Where am I now? Where have I been? And there's a couple, not just voice, but modes we use to do that. Health and status. If messages stop coming, send the dog with the barrel of whiskey around the neck, right? That would be the information for you to know I need help in some way. Weather information for, hey, the weather's getting bad. There could be somebody that's down the road from you that's hiking. That may give them the information they need to come back, because it's probably not safe if they're just going to go out and tent camp, for instance. Status of current events or efforts. So if you are overlanding and four-wheel driving, you got a lead car. He says, hey, there's a lot of sand coming up. Make sure that you're in the appropriate gearing or whatever it is you're doing, and to be ready for that. And then requesting supplies, relief for any situation. Again, send me that dog. I've been waiting for my whiskey. Where's that at? So, as far as your personal preparedness, Evan and Dom, what do you do from a radio preparedness, personal preparedness standpoint that you may have disconnected somewhat from your Aries stuff, if that's something you do?
Sure. Dom, do you want to actually start that one out, and then I'll...
Yeah, sure. What I kind of do is, in the most broad, like, scope of it, I guess, just to kind of, like, cover all bases, like, for given, like, any given emergency, like, have a family plan, like, if this happens, pull out an FRS walkie-talkie or something, and then go to this channel, and then you can find me there, because if you think something's going down, then obviously I'm probably going to be on it, too.
It's fantastic, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Then you can coordinate from there. Feel like you can hop to this channel, or if say they have a ham radio license, you can be like, hey, meet me on this repeater frequency, whatever. And you can discuss it farther. Then I always make sure I have, like, if I have excess batteries for my radio, I'll make sure they're charged up. If, like, for example, like a weather event, like if I know that a severe weather's going to be happening this week, I charge everything up that I can, and just, I guess, bunker down and prepare for it.
It's just like filling up your bathtub with water. You should charge those batteries, right?
Yep. And
you guys actually do get weather. It starts to drizzle and I start freaking out. I'm like looking for squirrels to eat and everything else. If we got, I'm just kidding.
It's super out of character for Southern California. Yeah, to kind of piggyback on what Dom said, as far as like personal stuff, if I leave the house, I have a mobile radio in my car. I try and turn that on every time just to make sure, hey, does my antenna still work? constantly checking my HT batteries. About once a week, I'll turn them on and make sure they're at least 75% charged, and and then kind of go from there, and then swap those out if need be. I have a couple different ways of operating aside from that. I have a generator at my house. I have one, soon to be two, solar generator setups. I have one that's 100 watt, 20 amp hour, and then I'm in the process of building one that's much smaller for like a QRP radio. So probably like 20 watts of solar, give or take, and then about 5 to 6 amp hours of battery. So that's kind of the stuff that I have as far as personal preparedness. So hey, if my cell phone stops working, if my internet goes down, whatever it is, I have that. And then if I'm traveling somewhere, I'll usually have my make sure my HT is set up for APRS because I can do messaging. I think there's more of that further down the presentation here, but that's some of the stuff that I do as far as preparedness, like for myself and for those around me, as opposed to EmComm, which I kind of compartmentalize as what you do for other people outside of your circle.
Ooh, that's a good point. We'll definitely be hitting that. Want to make a big shout out here to Flying Squirrel. Thank you for the super chat. Says great topic tonight, but always great topics. Well, thank you. Bought by garbage can. So I am ready for the Faraday cage. Oh, got it. Yeah. So I made a video on the little trash can that you can use as a Faraday cage. So yeah, you're getting prepared right on, because that's not a bad idea with sensitive electronics. Another super chat from Edward Beckwith. I am less than 1 month in as a ham. You've got the best show for us. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do put in a little bit of work on these, and I appreciate everybody watching and the kind words, and always the thumbs up and subscribing. So thanks everybody for doing that. Okay. So what kind of modes do I made a lot of these slides, but I did bounce these off of Dom and Evan, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The common modes I use for radio prepping to be personally prepared with radios, obviously voice, whether it's single sideband or FM on my handy talkie. I use a lot of APRS, and we'll talk about that later. And APRS is, sometimes people confuse APRS as strictly for giving your position. I don't necessarily do that. I use it to send messages via APRS to not only other hams, but also text messages to my wife and emails. You can do all that with APRS, and I think Dom's going to talk about that in a little bit. I also like JSA call a lot. That is a highly valuable video or mode. And also, I posted links in the description to videos that I've done in the past talking about all these different things, so you can check that out if you're interested. WinLink is email over ham radio. I use that a lot. PSK31 is something that I don't use as much anymore, but it has just as much practical value as it does back in the day as it does now. So I add it there because still a lot of people use it. Evan, do you have a particular mode that you like, that you feel is more for the personally prepared versus the EmComm prepared?
I do, actually. I'm a huge fan of voice. Works well for both. It has its purpose, absolutely. Personally, I think that JS8 call kind of falls more into the personal preparedness side of things.
Yeah.
It's a very efficient, and by efficient I mean, low power, bad conditions, compromised antenna. It's able to communicate longer messages across. It's kind of based on the FT8 architecture, right? Like you could literally radiate JS8 call from a light bulb, and somebody will hear you. I did that with the Christmas lights antenna, so it does work. So to me, I kind of put that in the personal category. It doesn't really follow a strict format, but it's a great way to get info or intel from somebody else, or pass it on, or just use it to keep in touch. So that's kind of where I put that mode specifically.
How about you, Dom?
You have to go with the like WinLink for more personal, but that can still play a good role in like the wider for more like, I don't want to say like set in stone, but like more like areas or when it's like professional events, and they're like more like if you're in coordination with like FEMA or your EMA office. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a tough call for me just because I don't do a whole lot of HF.
Oh, sure.
Stuff with
APRS might be your mode then personally, right?
Yeah.
That you would probably use more than anything.
Yeah, probably. And still with voice too, because like Evan said, it's really reliable and just kind of an easy go-to that anyone can pick up and just you clunk down on the button and it works.
Right. And since we've classified this as kind of personal preparedness, radio prepping is more about your close-knit group, your loved ones, your friends and family and that kind of stuff. The type of agreements that you have on modes that you use is based off of your team, your loved ones, the people that you have prepared to be able to use a radio in the time of an emergency, or they themselves are licensed too. Personally, when I am outdoors using radio, I'm always like squawking out APRS, sending messages. I'm obviously on voice, both repeaters and VHF simplex. And then HF, obviously, I'm either trying to make some kind of voice calls because I'm doing a Parks on the Air, or mainly SOTA for me. And that's primarily the kind of traffic I'm moving is my personal location, messages about, hey, I'm okay or whatever, and then making contacts in the form of like some kind of amateur radio event like Parks on the Air. So that's kind of why I put that there. So what if we flip it over, though, and we talk about emergency communication traffic? So, Evan, you made a really good point that you think of radio prepping as more, the groups that we talked about, your friends, your family, like-minded people, or it could be your off-road group, right? But when we switch it over to emergency communication traffic as being a member of ARES like you both are, do you feel that that's more in service to others, or to, why don't you go ahead and explain it?
Yeah, sure. So and you pretty well summed up the personal preparedness side of it. That's to me, I look at that as that's what I do with my radio equipment, or prepare to do with my radio equipment, that benefits myself, my family, my core group of people. Mm-hmm. Whereas emergency communications, ARES, RACES, Mars, whatever it is kind of what you take that radio equipment that you've spent time preparing with, and you're in a good spot personally, and ARES actually calls that out. Yourself and your family's well-being come first in any emergency or disaster, right? That's spelled out very clearly. But if you're in a good spot, then you take your knowledge and your equipment and your capabilities, and you use that to benefit others, whether it's a local hospital, or it's the American Red Cross, or it is state or local EMA or FEMA. So you're going through a lot of the same steps, but the messages that you're handling and who benefits from that infrastructure you provide changes.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Dom?
Yeah, I'll probably have to agree with Evan, and I think you touched on it a little bit in one of your previous CERT videos, where kind of like how Evan was talking about compartmentalization, how like in one of your early videos you talked about like how you would always hear on an FRS radio, how it's kind of how like it's your local comms, and then you have your HF, which is more regional.
Right.
I'll even go a step farther there, where like you have your FRS walkie-talkies and whatever other things people use, and you just kind of monitor everything. Mm-hmm. And if you hear someone that needs help, whatever, you can then use your ham equipment to do more, I guess like local citywide comms. Then if you really need something, you can use HF to go like national or worldwide if you need it.
Sure. Now, Evan provided some of these images, and I actually stapled on the 213 form here. I'm going to let you guys talk to this. ICS, I'm trained with some of the ICS classes, but you're obviously a little bit further trained because you were a member of ARES, which is kind of a requirement. Can you kind of explain what that is? Because I think that starts to set the foundation of the difference between personal radio preparedness and emergency communications.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, do you want me to talk about the radiogram thing first and then do the ICS?
Well, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I'm happy to switch it over. Yeah, so if you don't, that is perfect.
Do that, it's a little bit easier to build off if we do the radiogram first.
Oh, did I lose it? I might have lost it. Where did it go? Ruh-roh. Hold on, let me go back here and see if I can find it.
Darn it, I broke it. I can start talking about it while you're looking for the slide.
There we go.
So,
I got it.
Okay, cool. So there's a couple of different ways that you can pass traffic. And traffic can be anything. Traffic can just be me talking to Josh about a situation that's happening at the Red Cross shelter I'm volunteering in, whatever. But in ham terms, a lot of times when we say traffic, you're talking about an actual formalized message that is passed either by voice, CW, digital, etc. And the reason that there's these forms is because you don't want to play a game of telephone when lives are potentially are at stake, right? So you have a checksum of the number of words that are in the document. You have handling instructions. You know where the message came from, where it's going, etc. Actually, Josh, you got a radiogram not too long ago, or Leia did.
Leia did, yes. But, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, but basically, it's designed to take a message and have it carry across multiple stations across great distances and retain all of the original content of the message without any errors or problems.
Am I pulling up the right one? Was that the American Red Cross PDF?
If you want to do the yellow and green one that I addressed to you.
Oh,
first.
Perfect. There it is.
Yeah. There we go.
There it is.
So this is a terrible picture, but I wanted to fill out a sample one so you can kind of see. So this is what a radiogram looks like. These are able to make their way across the country using something called the National Traffic System, which was created by the ARRL originally in the early 1900s, and is actually where the relay comes from in the American Radio Relay League.
Ah, okay.
So this is a standard radiogram form. You can fill these out as PDFs. You can buy a paper pad like what I used here. But you have your header at the top, which kind of helps route things. We have our address there. This one's addressed to Josh. You'll notice the way the message is formatted. In the top middle, it'll say check. That's your checksum of how many words are contained within, so you can make sure that nothing's missing as you hand it off from person to person. And then at the bottom, you have your signature line. So that's a radiogram. These are used for personal purposes. They're used in emergencies to pass information back and forth. And this is kind of a form that's specific to the ham radio world. This is something that we use to talk to one another. And before long distance calling was a thing, people would use hams to pass messages to non-hams all the time. Actually, it was a pretty routine thing that people would do because you could use radio to get the message across the country, and then the last mile would be carried over by phone where it was a local call.
Right. So you're kind of laying the groundwork of this is a kind of a robust error, reduced error way of sending traffic, because it's you're playing telephone over great distances, right? The child's game of telephone. You're adding radios and potentially somebody holding a piece of paper and walking that way, or getting in a car and driving. So there's all kinds of chaos that you're adding into this, that the message could become degraded.
Exactly. And these messages they're carried from typically local nets, like a couple of counties, up to a state net, to a transcontinental net, then back to another state net, then back to another local net. So lots of hams are handling these messages, sometimes 5 or 6 people before it gets to its end destination, so that need to preserve the integrity of the message as it carries is important, which is where the forms come in actually on your slide now. Hams are able to actually pass forms that are specific to agencies that we serve. So I gave the Red Cross example there. FEMA Form 213, ICS Form 213 is one that we can send. And then that Red Cross one, I forget the form number, but there's about 40 or 50 forms that are specific to these agencies that hams have solutions to readily use the format that the agency we're helping.
And then let's take an example of like an emergency situation. So let's say proper emergency. There's some kind of disaster. Let's call it an earthquake in California, for instance. And someone's posted up at the Red Cross at some kind of relief shelter, and they're sending this 6409 form. What type of information would they be sending with that? Is it literally just the bullets that we have listed here, or does it maybe go into it a little bit?
Sure. So take Red Cross specifically. They actually have a few different ones. They have one that looks kind of like the Incident Command 213 form, or like a radiogram, which is kind of a general purpose form to pass information from point A to point B. The one that you have there that I gave you, I believe, is specifically a requisition form.
Okay.
So it is specifically for placing an order for your local Red Cross. Yeah, if you notice it says
cell phone, laptop, VHF ham station, VHF ham antenna. So you've got stock numbers associated with that. You've got SKUs associated with the thing you're trying to get, the quantity needed, who is needing it, and okay, I got it.
Exactly, and that's, if you notice, that's their letterhead. So this is a form that the Red Cross volunteers and leadership are used to working with, and hams are actually able to utilize our technology to pass that form over radio from where it needs to go, whereas normally they would use email. In a situation where that's not available, hams are able to do the same thing.
So we're talking about the traffic, right? And you're using a what's the right word to use? Not redundant, but robust form of it's a consistent form. It's laid out very precisely so that you're trying to reduce mistakes, because we're going to take that on the next slide. We're going to talk about modes you use in emergency communication situations where you take that information and pass it along, possibly through multiple hands, just to reiterate a point, right?
Yep, exactly.
And so we had the requisition form from the Red Cross, but some of the other information that could be passed, again, passing traffic is kind of a term we're going to use a lot, is also location information, health and status. So you could be at a hospital. And I know there's going to be 1,000 questions that pop up in the chat about, HIPAA laws, and all the stuff that goes into that. We might want to save that to the end, but you guys may have some thoughts on that, because that could devolve the whole discussion. But it could be health and status of people. It could be, again, weather. Be prepared. We've got a storm front moving in. Not California earthquake situation, but a proper place where there is weather, and then the status of current events going on. So I know both you and Dom, Evan and Dom, you guys support events. I think you mentioned the Susan B. Komen race and some other things that you support as Aries members. What kind of traffic are you passing for like a race in that situation?
Dom, I'll let you talk about kind of our involvement with like the local events and stuff.
Yes. So for like the Susan G. Komen race, it's a I don't remember how many kilometers it is, but basically just a loop around our town, and we place people at the start finish line, but also at strategic intersections or high traffic points,
potentially dangerous intersections.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're there to write down a form. 5 people hit. 6 people hit. 7 people hit.
I sure hope not.
You got a clicker, right? You got a clicker, then you
of course.
Has
at the end gets a free beer.
I'm playing light by this, but no, they're actually set up to prevent that from happening. So keep going, Dom. Sorry.
It's good. So, for example, for the Susan G. Komen, we'll relay back to net control, like when we see the first person, and when we see the last person pass, so they can have an idea how fast or the pace of the event's going, or if someone gets injured. That being said, with your HIPAA thing, just to kind of touch on a little bit, we're not allowed to say names over the radio because it's public information, or it's in the clear, as a lot of
sure.
Plain to say, it's in the clear, so you can't really say names.
You just refer to them as social security numbers, right? That's
So the actual protocol is typically a vague description. So a woman in a blue jacket, and need medical attention for a woman in a blue jacket, and then that's typically the kind of info that we would pass in that instance to preserve the privacy of the person involved.
And that could be in the form of voice over a VHF radio, right? But you're still using this form structure to pass that, because you're keeping a local copy, I assume, and then they're transcribing a local copy as kind of a record.
So when it comes to that sort of thing, that's why I watched the grid down video, and now every time I say tactical comms, I just want to punch myself. But that's
gonna get you a vest and an amber light bar.
I have a vest somewhere that I use for these events, actually, so I don't become a casualty.
I think I have a picture of that. Hold on.
Yep, I am afraid you probably do.
Where is it? Oh, I've got to find it. I've got to find it.
No.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. You keep going.
But when I say tactical, I mean like we're we would also have people that would shadow key people that are part of the event, right? So we would have a ham radio operator, because there tends to be actually cell phone reception issues there due to overload, because you're packing thousands of people in. The other thing is the volume there is insanely loud.
Sure.
They have like bands and stuff playing and like nearby, and generators for different tents and stuff. So a lot of the staff is bad about paying attention to their cell phones. The other thing is cell phones are bad at passing a message to everybody at the same time. So if something develops very quickly, the one situation I could think of, we actually had unfortunately a missing child that had a situation at one of the years. And so very, very quickly, all of the staff, I forget who reported in first, but one of the staff members was notified by the parent. The staff person was shadowed by one of our people, a radio person, who very quickly told net control, and then it went out to about 20 of our volunteers, 5 of which were shadowing race staff. And we had, dozens of people looking for a child that fit that description. And actually, it was an EMS, I think it was an EMS or police officer that ended up finding him, but we had people covering that entire area, and that message went out incredibly quickly thanks to radio. It would have been a lot harder to do that by phone.
Sure. And obviously the last bullet there is requesting supplies. Obviously that Red Cross requisition form is an example of that, so that makes sense there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide here. So the modes of communication, and I'm really just going to pass this off to Evan and Dom because they're more experienced in this area, but obviously they might use different modes of communication. We mentioned for the radio preparedness minded or the personal preparedness minded that we might use JSA call. We might use APRS, something that is kind of party to party, something that's pre-coordinated, but I'm assuming EmComms slightly different, and a lot of these terms actually come from Evan and Dom as we were putting this together. So why don't you guys just go through this, like just start working down the bullets and talk a little bit about it.
Sure. I'll take the first. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dom.
Because I have to hop out here in a second.
Yeah.
Do I have to talk about APRS really quick?
Please, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So APRS is one of the things I really like doing with either emergency communications or just backup comms in general, because like as you touched on earlier, you can do APRS to SMS or even email, or one more you can do, I don't remember which it is, or to Twitter. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Get a Twitter.
Yeah.
But that's a good like where you might not have cell phone reception, but you want to pass your own message to another family member out of state that might have cell phone reception or power or something. I can throw it up here in the chat too. It's called SMS GTE, and you literally just, that's the tagline or the call sign that you send it to. You put in the number, and then whatever your message is, then it sends it out to a cell phone as long as you're in range of a digipeater. Sorry, iGate, not digipeter.
Yeah, Hank, that's the link you sent me, right? Yeah, let me throw it over to that so you can talk. So yeah, you're talking about this 73 SMGTE URL here. I'll throw it in the chat so everybody can see it. But you use that to basically send a text message. So you start out with an @ symbol and then the number, and it kind of helps you with the rest of the way, right?
For them, yeah, because once you put in the @ and their phone number, you do a space, then you type in whatever your message wants to be. And the cool thing is, ideally, it does work in pretty good situations, but once you send a message to the phone, they can also reply back to you, generally speaking. And the number is active for, I think, a week or a month, and then it gets recycled back to the pool of numbers that they use. But it can be two-way communications, just like with the email as well. I'm
so glad you answered that question, because that was going to be my my response to you, is how do you reply? Because they mentioned the replying, and so it must be a bank of phone numbers that they're reusing basically to be able to go back and forth, right? So it's two-way.
Right. I think it's a mix of that, and I don't remember the logistics of going back to radio, but you might have to type in like their call sign and SSID again, but I haven't used it to reply back to the radio in a long time, but I have recently actually used it from radio to cell phone before.
Right on. Okay, cool.
But I unfortunately do have to head out, but I will be in the Discord later, hopefully.
Hey, all right, Dom, I appreciate that. And yeah, please do join us for the Discord after chat, both Dom and everybody else, because if you have questions, particularly in this area, we've got Evan and Dom. We'll have other people that are involved in emergency comms as well, and some radio preppers, I guess, in the house too. And we'll try and answer questions like this, and what you would do, what kind of traffic you would pass. We're happy to talk about radios. That's our favorite thing to talk about. But actually, then the doing of, once you get it deployed, what are you doing with it? What are your goals, right? So we'll be happy to talk about that as well. So thanks,
All right.
Tom.
Yep, thanks for having me on.
All right. So how about you take it then, Evan? Why don't you go from voice all the way down? Oh, yeah, and then the Zoom just got all funky. So you talk, and I'll sort it out. Go ahead.
You're all good, all good. So voice, great if you have a lot of people that you're trying to get the message across to all at once. It's the simplest form. Almost everyone's radio comes with a mic, unless you're Mike in the Discord or Nick in the Discord, in which case somehow your radios didn't come with a mic because you use CW, but that's okay too. So almost everybody's got a mic with their radio. That's the easiest way to get the most people possible, right?
Yep.
Now, when we talked about the forms, I kind of alluded to this before, but hams have a way to transmit those forms in their entirety over radio without actually having to speak them. So there is a suite of programs, which is, let's see here, fourth bullet point, NBEMS, stands for Narrowband Emergency Message Software or Service. I think it's software. But it's a suite of programs that interface with FLDigi and allow you to transmit about 20 or 30 standardized forms from FEMA to the Red Cross, radiograms, etc., radio to radio. So you can type that form out in your computer, and you hit the send button, and you can send it peer-to-peer over radio. So you can have a person at a emergency operations center at your state capitol that's in charge of calling all the shots here, and someone at a shelter, and they're able to send these requisition forms or whatever it is from person A to person B very quickly, very efficiently, which is kind of what the Olivia, MT63, PSK 125, all three of those are commonly used with that suite of messaging software to send those forms in their entirety.
And that's purely just, you take that form, it's digitized, fired out over RF, and received on the other end. And so I imagine that's probably where that checksum's pretty important.
Exactly. And it actually looks like you're sending a radiogram. I mean, it's like in XML that it sends all that stuff out, but then the person on the other side also has that software, and then it puts all the bits and pieces back where it needs to go, so you have a completed form that you can then print out and hand to the shelter manager or incident commander or whoever it is.
Sure. Okay. How about the other ones there? So did we covered APRS.
So we covered APRS. I'm not really going to dive into the specifics of Olivia, MT63, and PSK other than they're all commonly used for that. It kind of depends on the situation and what your local group is used to. MT63 is very fast. I've only ever used that. I used it once over VHF simplex and once over a repeater, actually, because we had a drill and I was not able to hit the guy through simplex. So I literally keyed it up, and he's like, well, just send it over the repeater. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to blast some tones into my microphone. Really sorry.
Yeah, that's like the joking, we do sstv on Discord. That's our favorite thing to do, right?
It's exactly what it was like. But thankfully, it was a very quiet repeater. There was probably maybe only 2 or 3 other people that heard it, but I warned them all to turn their volume down first and then sent it. PSK 125 and Olivia are both great for HF. They're pretty good as far as weak signal performance goes. I don't think either of those really has any form of error correction, but they're pretty robust modes to use for that, and slow, unfortunately slow.
Yeah, I just started dipping into the high-speed, low-drag of ham radio, where I wanted to ask you, what kind of antennas are you using to transmit this data? Because that's, all hams want to ask that, but really we're trying to focus on the comms that you're passing, the information. That's what this show's about today. Is like, what are you doing with these modes and communicating with? So the BEMS, we should probably do another show on that. We'll bring you back in and talk a little bit about that and actually try and do an example of that, because I think that's fun for a lot of people, because that's based off of FLDigi, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so it's actually, I believe it is designed by the same person who created FLDigi. It's like W1HKJ or whatever. I think you dropped the link in there. But it's a it's a suite of programs that interfaces to FLDigi. You have a couple programs. The main one that you're going to actually interface with, you kind of have FLDigi run in the background, and you pull up a program called FL Message. Is the one where you pull these standard forms in, type them out, and then you kind of shoot them over to FLDigi, where it then transmits that to its destination. You can also send a lot of these forms over WinLink. That Red Cross form that I sent you, I actually sent a couple of those over WinLink as well. On your slide there. I sent a couple of those over WinLink too. And the nice thing about WinLink is, like Dom was talking about with APRS, is this is a method of radio that you can send to people who are not hams.
Right.
That, to me, is the value in those programs that interface to APRS, like being able to send emails and SMS messages. WinLink is kind of on the same end of that, whereas it's a mode that allows you to talk to people who aren't hams using radio, which is also important in emergencies, whether you're talking about ARES or you're talking about personal preparedness. It's a way to talk to people who are not hams.
Yeah, there's a comment in the chat. Somebody was asking about using WinLink over VHF, UHF. And WinLink supports packet data transfer, and that's primarily how I use it when I'm doing email over VHF and UHF. But there's also something that a lot of people are using now. It's kind of the hip new WinLink mode. It's called VARA, and it's fantastic. You've been using VARA. You've been playing around with VARA too, right?
Trying to. There's a VARA node near me that I'm trying to make sure that it's not through my own error that I'm not getting into it. I don't know what kind of profile it has. It's about 30 miles from me, and it's on 2 meters. So I've got the software downloaded. I've played with it. Most of my WinLink to date has been through WinMore or more recently RDOP. That's been most of my WinLink stuff.
RDOP's good too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I vented to you the one day about RDOP because I found that it seems like all the ones I can hit are always super busy. So you sit there and you just keep trying and trying.
That's why VARA is great, because it's fast, and so hopefully everybody's clears out quickly and just keeps moving forward.
It's fast, and it's on FM 2 meters, so it's line of sight, right? So it's only covering 20 or 30 miles. I don't know if there's going to be another person that day that tries to connect to that node.
That's true too.
Another,
but VARA HF is the same way. It's much faster. It's not as fast as VHF UHF, but it's fast. We're off-roading a little bit here. We've got a couple of comments on Echolink and what was the other one? Zello. So I just want to mention really quickly, both of those modes require a network. They require your phone to be on network, and that's kind of the antithesis of what we're talking about here. We're talking about off-grid communications, personal radio preparedness, and emergency communications. Well, you might use cell phones, Evan. You can correct me, but the worst case scenario is no cell phones. So being prepared to me feels like, yes, this is easy time. This is fun time, right? This is no worries. I can just pick up my phone and do what I need to do. I'm not worried about. I don't prepare for that. I prepare for no network, where I have to be self-sufficient with my communication, and I need to go party to party.
Generally speaking, because I try and take even if it's an event like the walkathons and events that we've supported, I typically leave my phone in my pocket. If I've got a point where things are slow and I'm not really doing anything, I might send a text back and forth, just a general commentary as how things are going, something I don't necessarily want to say over radio. But generally speaking, I try and do radio for everything in that instance. Heck, when our club did field day this year, I gave them a talk-in frequency and told them to call me on the radio if they needed directions. I don't plan on using my phone other than to take pictures that day, because I try and use that opportunity to get better at the craft, right?
I was just going to say, that's the perfect time to do it, right? Lock your phone in your car and pretend like it's the Stone Age, or, obviously, no network days, and you've got to deal with it, right?
Grid down.
So I think... I think we covered the modes. I want to mention that I did post the links for a lot of these videos that I've done in the description, and we're definitely going to have Evan back to talk about some of these modes that are specifically for emergency communication, because obviously a lot of people hopefully are finding interest in Aries. Maybe go ahead, Evan, and mention how somebody could get started with Aries. I know that they could go watch the last time you were on the show where you talked about that, but maybe just a quick couple of minutes, and then we're going to go to your sweet pictures you sent.
Absolutely. So the easiest way to get in touch with Aries, if you're involved with a local radio club, this is probably going to be the quickest way to find out if you have Aries in your area, because some areas have Aries, some have Races, some have both organizations that exist, at the same time, and
some have
all the
React.
same people. Yeah, and some have React, and some it's all the same people. So I don't want to focus too much on Aries specifically, because you may not have that where you live, but that doesn't mean you don't have a group that offers emergency services for other groups. So when it concerns Aries or Races or whatever, inquire at your local club, ask around there. Another way to find out what kind of Aries activity is like in your area, let me find the website. What I always tell people to do is go to find out who your section coordinator, which is usually your state coordinator with the ARRL for Aries, and you can send them an email and ask them to put you in touch with your county coordinator. That's about the best way to do it. I'm looking for the website right now, actually.
Yeah, definitely don't look at the screen with all that I'm doing, because that's just going to distract you.
I'm looking at my web browser because I'm trying to find the website. We may have to have you drop that in the description, actually, because I'm not seeing the one I'm looking for. But on the ARRL's directory, you can find your state emergency coordinator who oversees that. Send them an email, because their name is listed publicly, right? Send them an email and say, hey, I live in this county. I'm interested in getting started with Aries. Can you put me in touch with my local group? And I've had people find me that way, people that moved from out of state to my county, and I get an email one day from them and the section coordinator saying, hey, this is John. John just moved to your county in Ohio, and he wants to get involved in Aries. From that point on, there's typically a quick registration form your coordinator will have you fill out. Many states, mine included, put a heavy emphasis on quickly trying to get through a couple of FEMA courses that gives you a better understanding of where Aries fits, what kind of agencies we serve. Now, it's heavily focused for FEMA, but your local EMA people, the police officers, the firefighters, the paramedics, the Red Cross people, they all took this same training. So it just kind of gives you an idea of how everyone works together, right, so that you're all on the same page.
And anybody can take a lot of this training too, right? I mean, is it pretty easy for people to get exposed to it?
Yeah, anyone can actually take it for free on FEMA's website. If you I'm not going to try and find the URL right now, but if you Google FEMA ICS course, you should very readily find it. The ones that at least our state encourages for radio operators that are looking to volunteer, I believe it is 100, 200, 700, and 800 are the course numbers. 100, 200, 700, 800. That's kind of like the bare minimum. Like, you should probably try and get these done soon if you're interested in being useful.
The ARRL also has like an emergency communication class that they teach, and I think you have to have so many of the ICS classes before you can even enroll in it.
You're exactly right. So they do have theirs. They just started doing them online pretty recently. It used to be kind of weird or difficult to take them. Also great material, but yeah, they want that stuff out of the way. They're very dry, but it's important.
They are.
Because you want to understand what is your role, what is everyone else's role, what does the organizational structure look like when we roll up to an area where a flood just swept through and cut off half the town, or a tornado just came through and took out 3 or 4 neighborhoods. You want to understand what your role is and what everyone else's role is as well.
Yeah, and I think there was a comment in the chat, and we can go ahead and answer it, and then we'll hop under your pictures. We're gonna. Do you mind running a little bit long, because I think we're approaching the hour mark.
We're good.
What's the difference between Aries and Races?
Aries and Races. So Races was originally associated with civil defense organizations. think back to the Cold War era, think back to when civil defense was in its heyday. And we don't have anything civil defense around me, so Josh, you may know more about that than I do. But
Well, because I'm an old timer, is that what you're saying, Evan?
no, I was thinking that with earthquakes and stuff that maybe you guys might have.
Yeah, because when there's
some
an earthquake,
remnants.
I pull out a gun and I start shooting the earth to show it who's boss. That's how we handle it.
That's not what civil defense is.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I guess I
said
missed
civil
it.
defense, not self-defense.
Oh,
I see the problem now.
the earth is assaulting me.
I see the problem now. Did my face freeze?
It did. What just happened there? So
That was a really awkward spot for that.
That was.
Let-
Let me.
Let me see if I can ascertain what happened here.
I still hear you.
Yes.
You're making it. So yeah, take your
this
time
might-
with it.
We may be audio only, but we'll see what I can do. So RACES is associated with civil defense. It was an extension of that, and RACES actually was about the only organization that was allowed to operate when the president or whoever basically suspended the amateur radio service during one of the world wars.
Okay.
Because of their association with civil defense. ARES is particularly involved with the ARRL. It is their parent organization. They share a lot of the same leadership, and they're the organizational and planning group for it. Let me see.
Yeah, go ahead. Take
give me
a
2
take a minute.
seconds to
Yeah,
see if
yeah,
I can
take a minute.
resolve my video.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time. We can sort it out because we want to get you on video. So I am pulling up some of the images that Evan sent, and I'll just talk about gear since I can just look at gear and talk about that. He definitely looks like he's running a laptop connected to a radio, and there's a signal link involved. That's a little box that's sitting on the top there into an external, what looks like battery pack. So that's pretty good. How about I do this while we wait? Go ahead, Evan. What was that? Were you going to say
I
something?
was going to say, I think we're going to be audio only through the rest of the end here. So
What happened?
I'm not sure, but my camera is no longer operational.
Is it USB?
It is USB, but it's not even turning on. It's
Dude.
an iPhone 10 that I've been using as a webcam, and it's not giving me issues prior to now.
Oh, did it run out of batteries? Is it just dead?
That's possible. It was fully charged this afternoon, but that's all right.
Okay.
We'll
Well,
continue with.
walk me through these pictures. So you sent me some pictures, and I think it started right here.
So this is actually, now this is from Field Day, but I wanted to show this because I think Field Day is a great emergency exercise, and this kind of gives you an idea of, what kind of conditions can you operate in. So that's my vehicle, my solar panel, little folding table that I brought with me, and then all my radio gear sitting on top of it. What you can't see is I just used the trees for about 148 feet of wire with an end fed. We've done similar drills as well for when we do our simulated emergency test with ARES. We did a similar one for something in Ohio that we call NVIS Day, which is specifically for using near vertical incident skywave antennas to communicate with people in the state. So making use of solar power, battery, and an NVIS type antenna to communicate with people in the same region as you. So, but I don't have any good pictures from NVIS Day, so I put this one in because I basically use the exact same stuff.
Sure. So what do we got next? That was the image there. Is that you?
That is a younger, skinnier me. The
Okay.
picture's probably 4 years old, but yes, that is me. So this was me using FL Digi, and we did do some NBMS messaging that day. This was for an ARES drill. I don't remember which one because this was in like 2014, 2015.
Sure.
Radio signal link, of course, to talk to the MacBook. Really giant toolbox in the back that has a sealed lead acid battery in it because lithium was extremely expensive at the time. So, and then that interface to solar as well. I had the same solar panel connected into that. So again,
cool.
Just demonstrating, how you talked about, what was it? Low drag, high speed, whatever.
High
it
speed,
was.
low drag. That's
High-speed,
right,
low
man.
drag.
That's right. That's a pull from Mike Glover and many of the people in the gun community. Obviously, after working with Mike, he's commented multiple times that like they want to do the sexy stuff. They want to do the gun stuff, and the comms is vital. It's vital to all things. Communication is a fundamental importance for whatever you're doing. And he was joking that, like, you know, we want to focus on the cool stuff like guns. Well, when you think about it, for hams, we want to focus on the fun stuff like gear. And we actually don't take a lot of time to convey the information of, well, what is it that you do with the gear? And so that's why this episode, I think, was so important to bring you out, Evan, to kind of talk about the information that you exchange, both, you know, as a member of Aries and just at, you know, your personal involvement with radio.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's, you know, I'll kind of go back to what I said at the beginning. You're going to use a lot of the same preparation. You're going to use a lot of the same gear. It's just a matter of what are you putting that gear to use for? Am I using it so that I can keep in touch with a family member when my phone doesn't work, or I'm, you know, out in the wilderness somewhere and there's no reception? Or am I using it in a time of need where radio works and nothing else does? I'm taking my equipment and, you know, using the network that I have to provide communication to somebody else in need.
Exactly. You got this one here. There's a couple. I see the radio there. That's a Yaesu.
Yep. So,
but I want to know about that tablet. So what's going on there? Are you sky warning right now?
Yep. So this is another activity. Carol in the Discord is super active in Skywarn because Oklahoma and Texas
Shout out to Carol.
Way more weather than we ever will. So kudos to Carol and the Skywarn people in Tornado Alley. I want to come visit you someday because that sounds fun as all get out.
You want to fight some tornadoes?
I kind of, man. I'm a huge fan of Reed Timmer. If you ever watch Reed Timmer.
No, what is that?
He literally drives used to drive armored vehicles.
The guy with
tornadoes.
the metal skirt vehicle.
Yep, the Dominator.
Okay. Yeah.
Dominator.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of his. But anyway, in Ohio, we do get some severe storms. This is one of them. So this is me doing my storm spotting thing. I think I was running the Skywarn net from my Jeep right there. And then I have a iPad that is a 10-inch iPad on a tablet mount that I was using for radar.
Nice.
You know, so I keep an eye on things. Ran the net from my Jeep because I happened to be out and about, and holy crap, storms got kind of nasty, and so it was time for a Skywarn net. For those of you who maybe don't have weather or are newer to ham, don't know about Skywarn, it's a program that is endorsed and training is done by the National Weather Service. They train regular people and hams to understand how storms work and to give them valuable information about what is happening where their radar can't see, and that's on the ground. The radar doesn't see the ground. So they actually train us to be their eyes and ears, and we use radio a lot of times as a way to report that information by way of nets and things. So.
Okay, right on. I think, do I have one more? Did it update? Oh, it didn't update. Oh, I'm very upset. I had the slideshow with. Let me see if I can update that really quick while you're still here. Did I get it? Oh, where is it? I've got your picture of you in a vest, and I want.
Oh no!
Well, wait!
Discord emoji.
No. We gotta get it. There. Whatever it is. Okay, I got it. I think I got it. Nope. Wait.
Nope.
Wait.
Broken.
Let me go off of me for a second. Come back. Uh-oh. Now my computer is slowing down. What's going on? There we go. Okay. Let's go back and... Where is it? Oh my gosh. I'm going to make this work right now. So hold on.
So that was... I think the picture you're going to show was from the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure. Our club has actually provided communications for that event basically since it came to our town, which is about 5 or 6 years ago. We volunteered every single year to provide safety and informational communication between the staff members. And you found the picture.
There it is.
Fantastic. That's me in the fantastic high-vis vests, along with Dave, one of our other Aries members there. So
I will say to that, where is it? Let me grab it. Enhance. Oh, what radio were you using by chance with that event? Do you remember?
I'm reasonably sure that's an FT2DR. I think that's the right era.
Right on
for that.
That? I know we tried to avoid talking about gear, but
we're hams,
is the FT2DR and the FT3DR kind of like the Aries emergency preparedness handy talkie of choice?
Man, I see a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
The VX, like the FT, Josh, what's the one that you have, your first radio? It's the FT60?
FT60.
Okay, that one was a mainstay for a super long time
Mm-hmm.
In that community, and then FT2, FT3 has kind of eked its way in there. I mean, it's just a ton of radio inside that case. Dom's did a great job talking about APRS, and you can walk around with APRS in your pocket.
Right.
So it's dual monitor, which is super handy. It does all the weather alert stuff. It's really the EDC radio for the preparedness minded or Aries minded person.
Right on. So what I'm going to do now before we wrap this up, I did, and by the way, Evan, you can hang on the line, because are you going to hang out with the Discord after chat too? Are you going to jump over with us?
Yeah, I'll be over. I'm going to fill up a beer and grab a cheeseburger that's sitting on the
Oh
counter waiting
boy,
for
I
me,
like that
and then-
answer. Well, why don't you
and
go
then I
ahead
will
and do
be
that?
in.
Why don't you go ahead and do that, and then I'll wrap up the show, and then
Okay.
we'll head over.
Works for me. We'll see you in Discord.
All right, thanks. I really appreciate both you and Don coming out, by the way. I really appreciate that, so thank you very much. So what I'm going to do to wrap this up, because we had fun with this the last couple of times I did it, I just hopped on sstv, and so we're looking at my sstv right now, and in fact, I don't know why it's so small. Here we go. And up in the left-hand corner here, I started doing some QSOs with people. I did a really good QSO, WA3TMS. This guy was coming in, Game Busters, and he's got a whole template scheme for his SSTV. SSTV, again, is slow scan television, so it's literally sending images over the radio to each other. We go back and forth and we make custom images for those of you that are inexperienced with SSTV. But he came back at me. I shot him a meme, which was right there. That was the meme I sent. And then we got another CQ call, actually 2 stacked up CQ calls. Another stacked up one. Look at the reply he gave, and that's not going to work. Let's do it this way. Hold on 1 second. This is how we're going to do it. Hold on there. I want to show you guys the glory that is the actual stuff he sent. So there we go. We're doing SSTV, and where's the image? Let's go ahead and blow it up. So that's the quality of the image that actually came out over SSTV from WA3TMS, which is pretty good. I thought that was pretty awesome. But then going through it there, here's his 73. Keeps opening up on a smaller in the bottom window. Pretty good stuff. Then the obligatory female that is not wearing a lot of clothes. A couple of other ones in here, but then we got a couple. I think we got a couple. Another QSO. Yeah. So this individual N3NJ, he was coming in really good, but I just couldn't complete a QSO. N3NJ right there. Did I get him, or where is he? No, VE6JMB was the one that I completed the QSO with. So that's Calgary, Canada, and that was the CQ that pulled up there. Oh, you can't run it in the background? That's no fun. And he ended up replying to me. So again, I sent him that. I sent him my memes. I got a 595. And then we got the N3NJ again. So I just wanted to kind of show off some SSTV stuff that happened today, because I mentioned before that I have a lot of fun with SSTV, and I sometimes do it on the weekends when I'm getting ready for the live stream. I'll just record SSTV stuff, so that's always a lot of fun for me. I love SSTV. We'll do that in the future. We'll actually do a QSO just on SSTV. That could be a lot of fun. I think that would be cool. All right. Is there anything else I need to do? Yes, of course I do. So we're going to hop over to the Discord after chat, but I do want to make a big thank you to the patrons. You guys allow this whole thing to be possible and allow me to buy stuff and pay for a lot of the hosting services I use for now the podcast. Again, link in the description for our podcast, Ham Radio Crash Course Podcast. But here's a big thing I want to mention. We have a Patron Picks episode coming up next week, the first weekend of March. That is one of the more ambitious videos that I'm going to do. It's going to take a lot of time to set it all up to stream it. And I am absolutely in love with this idea. What we're going to talk about, I'll give a little bit, is helping people out with what antennas they could put up at their home. And we are going to do it live. Hopefully the patrons will be in the chat. We're going to use them as kind of the test for doing this, but it is super cool. I have so many good pieces of evidence and information that I'm going to post and show you and walk through what antennas that they could put up in their home situation, their home QTH. I'm so excited about this, guys. This is going to be super, super fun. And I hope you all enjoy it, because I think that by putting and showing the images of other people, you will find something that is like your home situation, and then that may help you solve your curiosities of what antennas you might be able to put up, which for me is fantastic. That's exactly why I'm doing this, is that you feel like you can do it, that you can get out there and you can play radio, and you can get to the point that you may get involved with emergency communication, getting involved with your local areas, your local races, or whatever's in your area, and feel like you are a part of this hobby, this community, which is what this is all about, and definitely why I do it. And so a big shout out to all the patrons. I very much thank you, and the brew crew and everybody. I absolutely just thank you, everybody. I had a lot of fun doing this episode, and we're going to have a lot of fun next week. So I hope you subscribe. I hope you give me that thumbs up if you can. And I'm going to go ahead and flip it back to the memes. Hey, Nick Smith, thank you so much for the 7-3. I appreciate it, buddy. I'm going to flip it over to the memes. I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to play myself out. So 73, everybody. Please enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope you move over to the Discord and join us, and we get to talk a little bit more about EmComm, because frankly, on the Twitch, which I live stream to Twitch on the after chat, there's a lot of stuff that we can show off with different modes that I already have set up. So I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you join us over on the Discord. Until then, 7-3. Sonic D, drop that bass.